ever noticed that Americans seem to drive everywhere, even when a place looks close? Hi, I'm Jason, and this is Jason's Easy English, a podcast that helps you improve your English and learn about American culture with clear, understandable episodes in authentic, everyday language. Today, I want to tell you a short story about a friend of mine from Brazil who came to visit me in the United States, and very quickly, he noticed something surprising about American life. We use our cars for almost everything. And just a quick reminder, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Before I begin, just a quick note. This story is fictional, but it does reflect American culture and everyday life and language. So a few years ago, a friend of mine from Brazil came to visit me. It was his first time in the U.S., and he was really excited. On his first morning, he woke up early, stretched, looked outside, and said, "Jason, let's walk out and get some coffee." I smiled and said, "Okay, but we actually need to drive." He laughed because he thought I was joking. The coffee shop was only about 10 minutes away by car. On the map, it didn't look far at all. But walking, that would take almost an hour, and for part of the way, there were no sidewalks. That was the moment he started to notice that Americans are car-dependent, meaning that Americans rely on cars for daily life. As we drove, he looked out the window and asked, "Why is everything so far apart, so spread out?" And that's a great question. Many American towns and cities are very spread out, tipo espalhados, or dispersos in Spanish. They cover a large area with homes, stores, and offices far apart from each other, lots of space in between. In many places, you just can't walk from your house to a cafe or a store. Later that day, we needed groceries. So we got in the car. The next day, we went to lunch. The car again. Even the gym was a short drive. At one point, my friend said, "Jason, I feel strange. I'm not walking at all." In many parts of the U.S., especially in suburbs, daily life is about going from point A to point B, moving directly from one place to another, almost always by car, with very little walking in between. But then, something interesting happened. A few days later, I took him to a big park near my house. Suddenly, the feeling changed. There were people walking their dogs, kids riding bikes, and families having picnics. The park had designated areas, or áreas designadas, zonas designadas, special places made for walking and for biking, with no cars allowed. This is common in American parks to have designated areas for walking or for biking. He took a deep breath and said, "Okay, this feels a lot nicer." This surprises a lot of visitors. Even though Americans drive a lot, many communities have parks, green spaces, and long walking trails, which are paths made for walking, hiking, or biking. Something like trilhas para caminhada, or senderos para caminar in Espanol. Near the end of his trip, we visited a big city. And again, everything changed. We walked everywhere. Coffee shops were around the corner. Restaurants were close together. We used public transportation and walked for hours. He smiled and said, "This feels more familiar." And that's because many big American cities are more walkable, meaning it's easier to move around on foot without a car. By the end of his visit, he understood something very important. In small towns and suburbs, cars are almost necessary. In fact, they are absolutely necessary. In big cities, walking often makes much more sense. And now, every time I get in my car just to buy milk, I think of my friend and smile. All right, I hope that story was interesting and easy to follow. But before I let you go, let's review what we talked about today. We learned that many Americans are car dependent, meaning they rely on their cars for daily life. We talked about towns being spread out, which makes walking difficult and even dangerous. Daily life often means going from point A to point B, usually by car. But we also saw that there are designated areas, like parks and walking trails, where people do walk, bike, and relax. And finally, we talked about how big cities can be more walkable, with many places being closer together. Well, that's all I have for today. I hope you were able to understand most of the episode and learn something new about American culture. Be sure to follow or subscribe, and please share Jason's Easy English with your friends who are also learning English. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you at the next episode.